I think you were going to share maybe a 4-part framework for dealing with your anger.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to give something a little tactical. Step one, get to know the signs. Get to know the
Mm.
signs of your anger. And those signs are physical, they are language based. So you'll probably be saying certain things. You might hear yourself saying the same thing over and over again. You might hear yourself using what I call absolutes, right? You always, you never. I go to that all the time. That's how I
Mm.
know that I am reactive and that my anger has a hold of me, right? You always, you never. How come you never do this? How come you always blah, blah, blah? So get very familiar with the signs of what you say and what it feels like physically in the body, right? So for me, I start to feel this like heat and energy rising up through my core, and then it feels like, again, that Iron Man analogy. Iron Man has that core right in the center of his chest. It feels like when I start to lose my temper, like that part of me just gets switched on. And all of a sudden, it's like,
Mm.
oh, I can feel this massive amount of energy right in the middle of my chest, and it's moving up into my head. Step number two is name that out loud. Name it out loud. I am angry. I'm getting angry. Or I am too angry. Or I'm losing my temper. Not because of the other person, not to blame, not to judge them or any of those things, but you just name it out loud. I'm being reactive. I'm feeling reactive. Step number three is, and this is maybe going to be a little controversial, but say what you're feeling behind the anger. Say what you're feeling behind the anger. So anger is almost always a secondary emotion.
Why is
And
that?
all
You said this might be controversial. I don't think that is, but why do you think that might be controversial?
Many of us have lived a life with a very small emotional palette where we feel happy, we feel angry, or we feel nothing.
Mm.
That's some guys, and like I was like this in the past. I felt happy, I felt angry, or I felt numb. And that's the case for a lot of guys. They don't realize that they maybe felt embarrassed first, or they felt anxious, or they felt ashamed, or they felt hurt, or they felt sad before they actually felt angry. So anger is a
Anger is
secondary
kind of the
emotion.
catch-all.
That's right. That's right. So it
Got it.
just becomes like, oh, I feel something and I don't like it. It's anger. So say
Got
what
it.
you're actually feeling. And that might take some practice where you're like, okay, I'm angry. What was I feeling just before this? And
Right.
maybe you felt disrespected.
Yeah,
Maybe you
that's the
felt,
word that came to mind for me is disrespected. Is like I'm angry because you did this thing. Why am I angry? Because it's you're disrespecting me. It's like, okay, now we're getting closer to the real issue.
yeah. Yeah. So that's step number three. Say what you're actually feeling. And then step number four is shift your attention from your thoughts to your body.
Okay, explain
Shift your
that.
attention from your thoughts to your body. So, like I said, anger has a physical quality to it. All emotions have a physical quality to it, but anger specifically has a very physical quality to it. And if we're only aware of what we're thinking, we'll disconnect from the physical part of anger and we won't be able to what's called down regulate. We won't be able to cool the heat of our anger.
Mm.
Okay. So if we're just stuck in our thoughts, how could she do that? Why did she say that? What the hell's wrong with her? Like, why didn't I think about this? Whatever is going on in our mind, we will not attend to the physical part of the heat that we feel in the body, and we won't be able to cool down.
Is it healthy to just I mean, I'm not saying you're saying this, but here's what I'm gathering is okay, now
Mhm.
you can begin to regulate your temper, right? Is that healthy? Or are you just suppressing it? And actually, what you should do is go to the gym or go for a run or hit your punching bag or whatever,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Attach it to something physical in nature.
Yes. So we could add a fifth step because I think this will be helpful for everyone that's listening, which is decide what to do with that. Do you
Mm.
need to go and sit and breathe? You know, for one of the things that a lot of guys don't like is that they have to build up a tolerance for their anger. They have to build up tolerance to contain the energy, the like intensity of I'm fucking pissed right now. Sorry to swear so harshly on your show, but I'm pissed right now and I don't know what to do with the energy in my body. It's not so much the thoughts that we think, it's the intensity of the charge in the body, right? It's like this fierce energy that we start to feel that we don't know how to deal with or contain.
Yeah.
So discern or decide what you want to do with that energy. Maybe you go and sit and just close your eyes and breathe into it and see if you can just calm it down a little bit or down regulate it. Maybe you go and press some of that energy into a punching bag. Maybe you go to the gym and lift some weights. Maybe you go for a run. Maybe you do some breath work. Maybe you take a cold shower. All of those things, really solid options to choose. I use all of them depending on what's going on in my life. But one of the best things to do is sit and use the breath, your breath. Because when you're, maybe I'll just say one last thing and I can see you got to follow up. When you are angry to that capacity where it starts to become defensive or aggressive or whatever it is, what's happening is that your body is moved into your sympathetic nervous system, which is like your stress, the stress part of your nervous system. And the more that you're in that part of your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, the more that you're releasing cortisol and norepinephrine and adrenaline. And so your body is literally getting more and more and more and spun out. Your heart rate starts to elevate. Your breath rate per minute starts to elevate. And if you don't have any control over that part of you, over the physical part of you, then everything else doesn't matter, right? What you say, how you respond. If you're not able to regulate your breath and your heart rate and the physical sensations that you're having, then it'll always be a problem, because anger will show up and it'll consume you and it'll take over the show. So you have to start to get really familiar with what does it actually feel like, and can I build up a tolerance for that feeling, right? It's like getting punched for the first time. Probably the first time you get punched in the face, you have very little tolerance for it. You're not used to it. You're right. It's like the first time I got punched in the face when I was playing hockey, I was like, holy crap, like what, that was wild. But eventually you start to build up some tolerance for what that feels like. Anger is no difference, right? Anger is no different. If your story internally is, I hate that feeling, or I feel out of control when I'm angry, well, then you're always running from the anger. It always has the best of you. So you have to literally sit with that part of you and breathe and say, I can face you. Even as intense as you get, I can be with you. Because if you as a man can't be with your anger, how is your wife supposed to be with it? How are your kids supposed to be with it? So you have to do the hard thing to sit, eyes closed sometimes, in silence, and breathe and sit with the dragon of your anger. It's not the sexy thing to do. It's not the thing that a lot of therapists are going to tell you to do, but I think that it's the thing that I have seen the most benefit from in my life, because then when it shows up physically in my body, I'm not afraid of it. I don't let it take over. And there's some type of control where I can direct that energy. Or if it gets too much, then I can go and, go and use a punching bag. I can go and
do what you need to do.
jujitsu. I can go do what I need to do.
Right.